Welcome to BelleAire Radio. I'm Keirra Michelle, and I'm with Professor Lipscomb.
It's great to be here, Keirra, on my favorite channel on SiriusXM. That's channel 142 HBCU.
This is a very special edition of BelleAire Radio. We got a chance to interview Professor Steve Willis. He is the Dean of the Division of Humanities, Business, and Professional Studies here at Bennett.
He's also a professor in theater, as you know, and an accomplished playwright. And as I say, as you know, because tell us what your minor is here at Bennett College.
I am a theater minor at Bennett College.
So Keirra, do you know a lot about what goes into creating the play that you eventually end up performing?
No, I don't know too much about the work that goes into it. I'm just trying to recreate the vision of the playwright.
So you're kind of focused in your own role.
Oh, yes. To get into character, I would have to change my whole name and be that character that the playwright wants you to be. So I hope to learn a little bit about that as we listen to our interview with Professor Steve Willis.
I am here now with Steve Willis, and we want to talk about playwriting, and particularly his most recent work, where he did a play on the life and the work of Diana Sands. Steve, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us at BelleAire Radio. And how did you first become interested in playwriting?
Well, I became interested in playwriting actually a long time ago. I had always written. I was one of those students who was always on the literary magazine. I was always writing poetry and writing short stories, and my short stories were always stories that had a lot of dialogue. And I always have been interested in theater. I've been doing plays since I was 5 years old. So I transitioned into writing plays really when I was in graduate school.
Now, are plays ideal for including dialogue in a way that movies aren't?
Oh, definitely. Plays are about words. Not all of them. There are plays that have even more movement than words, but most of the time, plays are certainly more word-oriented than film. In film, the director is sort of the be-all, end-all. In the theater, the director is very, very powerful, but the script is very holy. So a director would not just decide to change something in a script.
And what was it like the first time you saw your words performed by other people, and do you remember how it felt?
The first thing that I wrote that was actually produced was when I was in grad school. And I actually wrote it and directed it and put it up in the studio theater at UNCG. And I remember it was extremely magical. It was sort of like you had put something together in your head, and all of a sudden there it was, tangible, real. And to this day, I have to say it's always interesting when you imagine something and put it on paper and then you see it come to life. It's not always, or not really ever, what you imagined it to be. If you're lucky, it's better than what you imagined it to be. And if you're not so lucky, sometimes it's not as good as you had hoped it would be. But it's never exactly what you had in your head.
And how often do you find that it leans on the side of being better than you thought versus you're just slightly disappointed about a part of it?
Well, the theater is a collaborative art. So if you're working with really, really good people, there's a good chance that what you've written and what you've imagined is going to be better than you could have perceived it being. I think more often than not, it's been very rewarding and very fulfilling and very satisfying.
So when was the last time that you got a chance to watch your words come alive in a play?
Well, it was Diana Sands. It was the play we did at Bennett last weekend. I've been working on this play for about 10 years. It has been a one-woman play. It has been a two-woman play, and it's now a six-woman play. And so there are lots of different versions of it that are out there, and there are even more versions than those three in my hard drive. The play was done off Broadway in 2012 with two women, and I liked that production a lot, but I certainly saw some things I'd like to change about it. So the production we did at Bennett was very close to that production with a cast of 6 rather than just 2. So I got a lot out of this process.
It takes a certain toughness of spirit to become a star.
And Diana Sands had that toughness of spirit in spades.
Just like Benita, the character she played in The Raisin in the Sun, and the role she is best remembered for today.
The story of her life and who she was came to me through a Bennett student. I had a student in one of my classes back in 2004 who did a project on Diana Sands, and there was not a lot of research. The student struggled to find the information she needed, but she came up with a really interesting project, and it sort of sparked my own interest into wanting to know more about this woman. The more I've researched her, the more I've paid attention to who she was and why she made some of the choices she made, the more I feel like her story is a story that needs to be told. So I couldn't find out what I needed to find out. I started digging, and I ended up doing a scholar in residency appointment at NYU to study Diana Sands. The idea of writing the play came out of that research, and I always intended, when I started the research, to write a play because I'm a playwright. At this point, I'm considering, knock on wood, thinking about anyway, writing a biography or looking at writing a biography about her.
How do you learn about their work compared to how you learn about their personality?
Well, that's always tricky because I think the more people you can talk to who actually knew the person, the more likely you are to get all of the multifaceted notions of who they were to come together. Of course, I've read a lot about Diana, and I've read a lot of interviews that she did, and I've even been able to see a couple of interviews that she did and listen to a couple of interviews that she did. There aren't a lot out there. So you just kind of piece all of that together to try to figure out who this person was. But when you do a play about somebody, the character on stage is definitely a character in the play based on Diana Sands. Somebody else could write a play about Diana Sands and she might come off a little differently than she does in my play. There are personal stories in the play, and you learn a little bit about her family. You learn a little bit about her personal life, her romantic life. But the core of the play, the thesis of the play, is really who she was as a performer.
How can we possibly do this play without a moment of silence in the beginning? Dr. King was assassinated yesterday. Yesterday! I can't do this. All this talk of should we or shouldn't we? At first everyone was all for it, but then somebody, a producer, probably decides we're not going to do it after all. We'll go. Tell them that unless that moment of silence takes place at the beginning, I won't do the show tonight. I want the audience and the actors to take a moment to acknowledge that this man gave his life, that this brilliant and amazing leader has had his life taken away from him at the age of 38 because he believed in what was right.
Now, isn't that a great responsibility, dealing with a real-life person as your character versus a character that you've written as a fictional?
Well, it's huge, and it's very huge when you're dealing with someone who actually, Diana died in 1973. She died very young. She was only 39. But there are still people walking around who knew her and who met her and worked with her and knew her well.
Any family members?
I have had some discussions with family members and met some family members from Diana's circle, absolutely, and they've seen the play.
How have they reacted?
Well, for the most part, positively. The most family members that have seen the play saw an initial reading of it that was done at the Schomburg quite a few years ago.
You mentioned a book possibly could come from this research. I know that's a large undertaking.
It's a large undertaking.
What's the future of this as a play?
The 6-character version that we just did here at Bennett seems to me to be a great opportunity for other colleges and other theater companies who maybe have an interest in telling the stories of women, the stories of African Americans, the stories about artists. I will do what I can to see about getting the information out and maybe having some folks look at the script that I have.
Now, thinking of Bennett College specifically, when you started this research, did you think this would be an ideal play for Bennett College in the sense of the audience and also the participants from your theater program?
Well, not at first, because my at first it was a one-woman play, and there aren't students in their 18, 19, 20, 21 who are ready or even interested in learning an hour-and-a-half script for a solo performer. That's a lot. But when I began to work towards doing a multi-character version, I immediately thought, wow, this is a great story to tell at Bennett. It certainly fits into who we are and what our mission is. And the students have always found Diana Sands to be interesting. She was a tenacious person. She was a determined woman. She was an African-American woman who did great things during an era when those barriers were certainly higher.
When Diana was first starting out, she was lucky enough to get work in an off-Broadway theater at the Greenwich Mews. There really wasn't any discrimination there.
At the Greenwich Mews, a Negro could just walk on stage in what might be considered the white part, and the audience would just adjust and accept you, and that was that. Like when I was in Shaw's Major Barbara.
There are neither good men nor scoundrels. There are just children of one father, and the sooner they stop calling one another names, the better. You needn't talk to me. I know them. I've had scores of them through my hands. Scoundrels, criminals, infidels, philanthropists, missionaries. They're all just the same sort of sinner, and there's the same salvation ready for them all.
Was that exciting as that became something that the students could participate in?
Oh, absolutely.
And when did that happen?
Absolutely. Well, really over the course of the last year, once I saw the show in New York, and I thought, wow, the two-character play is interesting, but I could probably take that one character and make it 5 different actresses, and I could use students, and then nobody's having to learn an hour and a half of dialogue all by themselves. So that's when it really kind of began to percolate in my mind that this could be a project for the Bennett Players. The play that we do on Family and Friends Weekend, traditionally in the theater program, we always look for a piece for that weekend that we think really is appropriate for who Bennett is.
Can you talk about your role in this particular performance? You were not the director.
No, I wasn't the director. I actually cast the play because I was going to direct it. And over the course of the summer, shifted my duties around a little bit and decided that maybe I wasn't the right person to take this on. So once Beth Ritson started the process of directing, I really stayed out of the way.
And that must have been difficult to turn things over like that.
No, it wasn't difficult at all, because I'll tell you the truth. I'm a playwright who has directed a fair amount of his own work. But I'm also a playwright who strongly believes that playwrights learn from the opportunity of having someone else direct their work. And I really think, and I've said this to her, I really think it was a much better production because she directed. I don't think it would have been as good as it was had I directed it, because she brought elements and aspects and nuances to some of the scenes in the play that I had not even thought about. So I'm very, very grateful to her and very grateful to this cast. They didn't have a long time to rehearse it, and I think they did terrific work and really allowed me to understand my play better.
So where did you sit when you watched the play?
Oh, different places. I sat in the back during the run. During rehearsals, I would sit about 4 or 5 rows back.
So when the play was actually in performance, you sat in the back?
I sat near the back, yeah.
What goes through your mind and what do you observe?
I'm really interested in the audience. You know, I have to say that I'm always interested in the audience, and I'm interested in if they're going to laugh in the same places from night to night. You're not sure if that was just the moment, or was that something I need to tweak, or what's going on there. So I really enjoy watching the audiences, and all audiences are different.
So can you describe if you had a high spot?
I love the scene where Diana's in high school. She's at the High School of Performing Arts, and they were not allowed to audition for shows outside of the school. And Diana, being a New York girl and having grown up in New York, was wanting to audition. She would see a show off Broadway, and she would want to audition for it, and then she would get cast in it, and she had broken the rules of the High School of Performing Arts. So she would sometimes be late, because she'd be out late doing this play, and then she would be late getting up and coming to class. So to take attention away from the fact that she was running late, she created this invisible dog act. I thought that was a very funny scene, and a scene that went very, very well.
And since I had to walk the dog, feed the dog, scoop up the dog's poop, and do all the things that dog owners do, that became my reason for being late. I'd walk him all around campus, and he wasn't a very cooperative dog. He was a mess, truly. He'd pull at his leash, bark at people, and pee in places he wasn't supposed to. And of course I had to bring him to class with me. I mean, who else was going to watch him? So on days that I was late, I'd pull him in by his leash, which he hated, and he'd pull me back out, and I'd pull him back in, and he'd pull me back out, and I'd pull him back in, and this would go on for quite some time, until finally I'd get him into the classroom with me.
Diana, please control your dog.
Sit down, be a good boy, sit down.
We are trying to have class, Miss Sands.
I'm sorry, my dog, he can't help himself.
Where does the play start in Diana's life?
Well, it's not a show that is necessarily in chronological order. There is an older Diana and there is a younger Diana, and the play starts with the older Diana.
You know, I never used to understand why I was so unhappy when I wasn't in a play, making a movie, or doing a television show. I used to get so restless and anxious. And then I realized that I was unhappy because I missed the work. I missed the actors and the rehearsals. I missed the challenge of figuring out my character's motivation, her background, who she was, who she is, what she wants. I missed being in front of an audience. Of course, you absolutely have to be more connected to the part you're playing than with your own desire for success or fear of failure. Human beings trying to connect and make their way through this crazy existence called life. That's what theater and film, that's really what it's all about. When I'm acting, that's when I have the feeling that I'm complete.
Could you set up the moment where Diana is in the play with the other actress who keeps hitting her?
Oh, yeah. During the run of A Raisin in the Sun, there's a moment where the character Mama slaps Beneatha. Beneatha has a monologue where she says she doesn't believe in God. And so in the original run of A Raisin in the Sun, the actor who played Mama and Beneatha, Diana Sands, had some disagreement off stage. And during the course of the run, the slap became harder and harder and harder.
Well, after that little episode, the slap Claudia gave Diana on stage got a little bit harder. In fact, it got a little bit harder every performance. For 3 weeks. It got so bad that one night,
I decided I would fix Miss Claudia McNeil once and for all.
Mama slaps Beneatha.
And Beneatha falls down right there on stage.
Diana said, what the hell do you think you're doing falling on the stage acting like a damn fool? That's not in the script.
When he thinks you slapping me on my face like it's somebody's backside. Is that in the script?
Tell us how you set up that storytelling structure as far as the two Dianas, and then tell us how the other actresses filled in to complete the story.
Okay, well, it's the play is structured in a very theatrical way. So it's storytelling. There are times when actors in the play, including young Diana and the older Diana, talk directly to the audience and tell you a story from their lives or from the life of Diana. There are times when the actresses in the play who are not playing Diana function very much like a Greek chorus. All of the characters have permission to break the fourth wall. Diana died at 39 from a rare form of cancer, And this was in 1973, so we certainly were not as far along in cancer research as we are in the 21st century. Diana hid her illness from her mother. She was very close to her mother, and she didn't want to tell her mother what was really going on. Her mother had high blood pressure, and she was concerned that if she shared with her mother what was happening to her, it would upset her mother, and her mother would get sick. So in the scene in the play, Diana has been avoiding her mother, avoiding answering her mother's phone calls. And finally, her mother comes to her apartment knowing she's home. That's a very powerful scene, I think, in the show.
There's something wrong, and it hasn't got anything to do with anything that happened last year. It hasn't got anything to do with any of that. Now, I don't want to hear any more about this being low on energy or any other nonsense. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know now. And I'm not leaving here until you tell me. Do you understand?
The whole room is frozen. I can hear my heartbeat. It's beating so loud, I wonder if they can hear it across Riverside Drive in the park, or across the river in New Jersey. I look at Kurt. He looks back at me. Miss Alma jumps down from my lap. Cats are very instinctive, you know. All right, Mother. You win. I'm sick. But I don't want you to worry, and I don't want you to get sick. That's the last thing any of us need right now. I've got what nobody wants to talk about, Mother. I've got the big C.
Tell us what it's like to combine a career as a playwright along with an academic career.
I always taught one class, one evening a week, or I would sometimes teach 8 o'clock classes before I went to my theater administration job. So when I decided to leave theater administration, I freelanced for a few years and taught, not full-time, but as an adjunct at a couple of different universities, and wrote. I was still doing that balancing act, because how many people earn a living as a playwright, right? Not too many. So when the opportunity to come to Bennett as a full-time faculty member came along, it came along at an opportune time, and it was an opportunity to be at a small school, to be at an HBCU. So it was an opportunity that kind of felt like the right one for me. And over the years, of course, I've evolved into being a department chair and now being a dean. But I'm still writing. I'm still doing that part of me that needs to be seen about. That scholar artist part of me doesn't go away.
You mentioned liking being at a HBCU. So you're a white professor yourself. Was that ever out of the ordinary at any point in your time here?
I think learning is learning, and I have had a long time interest in African American literature, African American theater, so the opportunity to explore those interests in a deeper way, in a more opportune way, has been very gratifying for me. I don't know if I would have discovered Diana Sands had I not been at HBCU. I may not have had a student who did this project that became something I was interested in. So I feel like I have been very blessed in my academic career, and I certainly believe in the importance of HBCUs, and I think it's very, very important that they continue, and it's very important that we continue to support them and to make this education that they provide available.
What's your favorite part about teaching and working with students?
I think that the opportunity to watch them teach me, because I teach because I'm a lifelong learner. I don't teach ever in a way that, oh my goodness, I have all this information, let me open up your brain and shovel it all in there. I often tell my students, I'm not going to ask you a question you can Google.
So if there is one goal that you'd like to reach career-wise, what would that be as a playwright?
I think my goal as a playwright would be I would like to have my work performed more often. I think every playwright would like to have a play that becomes his or her calling card. And by calling card, I mean when I say Tennessee Williams and you say A Streetcar Named Desire or A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and when you say Tony Kushner and you say, oh, Angels in America. I think all playwrights would like to have something that is sort of their signature, that kind of they can hang their hat on, and because those are the kinds of things that open doors for you as a writer. I would like to see my work done more frequently. I've been very lucky because I've had a lot of things that I've written produced. I've had things produced in America, in New York. I've had plays produced in Australia, in South Africa. I've been very lucky, but I would like to know that somebody was doing one of my plays almost every night of the week. That would make me really, really happy, whether it was in New York City or whether it was in, Timbuktu. That would make me happy, because playwrights don't write plays to put them in a drawer. We write plays to be seen and for people to put them up. So that would be, I think, my long-term goal, is that my work is being done.
Steve, thank you for joining us on Sirius XM 142 HBCU as a part of BelleAire Radio. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to enjoy more of your work?
Oh, they can also always email me. They can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Steve Willis Writer, which they can like. They can email me, swillis, SWILLIS, at Bennett.edu. I'd love to chat with people. I like to know other writers. I'd love to talk with students who are wanting to write plays. So feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, and we wish you the best of luck with your future pursuits.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for that interview, Mr. Lipscomb. Did you learn anything?
I did, and the thing that was most interesting to me was the way that a play evolves. I mean, it's amazing to me, the play that I saw last week, which was several actors and two characters playing Diana Sands, arose from a one-woman show.
I just have to tell our listeners something. I hope that they can all come down to the little theater and just experience the plays that we put on here at Bennett.
So you want them to come from anywhere? You don't mean just in our community of Greensboro, North Carolina. Are you talking about everybody here out in Sirius XM?
Oh yes, I need everybody to come see the amazing productions we put on at Bennett College.
I'm sure they'll take that in consideration, but will they ever be able to see you perform a show?
Maybe, possibly in the spring, you never know. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of BelleAire Radio. We hope you listen to us next week.